Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Monday night, around 10 p.m. Finished up work, hit the gym, ate some dinner, and then we're back over here to work on the car. I got my seal in, the alignment tool, and the new ARP harmonic balancer bolt. So basically we're ready to continue on, try and get the Z06 back together tonight. I don't know how far I'm going to get. I mean, probably going to be at least a couple hours to get all this stuff back together. We'll kind of see as I'm getting tired. I don't want to force the project and mess something up and get sloppy, so I might just do a little work tonight and then come back tomorrow after work and finish everything up. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so here's all the parts basically we need for the job. We got a new seal, we got an ARP bolt, and we got the alignment tool. I got some questions about where I got this, or so here's the name of it and where it came from. And basically this is going to go onto the crank snout, and then I'm going to put the timing cover on, and that's going to center this relative to the crank position, and then tighten these bolts down, torque it, and then that will be set centered, so then when we bolt the balancer up, it's going to drop right in and be centered on the seal. So that's the trick with that. Obviously I didn't do that last time. I just thought the bolt holes were close enough on alignment and it would kind of center itself as resting on the oil pan, but obviously that's not the case with these LS motors. You got to be real critical of your tolerances and how you put this together. So this is definitely the tool for the trade here, and you want to make sure you got this prior to doing a front main seal on one of these cars. And then the other thing too is, before you take this apart, you want to make sure you mark your balancer if you're going to be reusing it. This balancer should be fine. It only has like 20,000 miles on it, so I don't see any need to replace it, and I hope I don't regret that decision. But anyway, so this is marked on the crank snout, and then the alignment here. These are some old alignments from when I torqued it last time, my 0 point, my 230 degree with the stock bolt. So that was the alignment mark, and then one is on the snout, because this is a balanced harmonic balancer. You can see it has holes drilled in here, and it's weighted with the rotating mass of the engine, so the crank and everything like that. If you replace it with an aftermarket that's a zero balance dampener, you could just bolt it up in any position, doesn't matter, because it doesn't have offset mass. But this one does, and it'll throw the engine out of balance and could wear out your mains or your rod bearings, stuff like that, a lot faster if the engine is vibrating at a harmonic rate, and it'll just wear those bearings out. So we followed the procedure with the alignment tool, put this on the crank snout, then slip the timing cover over it, and then they give you a little step-by-step how to do it. So you just like put the bolts hand tight in the timing cover, and then you tighten the pan bolts on the bottom to kind of align this. And then when this spins, not so much freely, but you could turn it by hand, that means you got the alignment correct. And then you go ahead and torque your cover bolts down to 18 foot-pounds, and then torque your pan bolts down. But you're not going to be able to get a torque wrench in there unless you have the subframe out. So I just, cranked down on them with the 10 millimeter combo wrench, and then I actually used the torque wrench on the cover bolts for the timing set. So we'll move on to the next thing here. All right, so we got the balancer seated right now. Give you a little tip I just kind of figured out. Last time I used a factory GM bolt, a new one, because it's torque to yield, right? But this time I went with the ARP, just as I was like, oh, well, what if I have to do this again? I might as well buy a bolt that I could reuse, even though it's $40. But anyway, let me show you the stock bolt with the washer. As you can see here, the ARP bolt is just slightly longer, maybe by like a ½ inch, but they give you an additional washer, which is gonna, as you can see here, make up for that gap. But I think the reason why they do it a little longer like that is so that you can use this as a jacking bolt to walk the harmonic balancer onto the crank snout. So if you just put the harmonic balancer in place and then try and catch the thread with this bolt to like walk it in, it's not going to catch. You actually would have to like tap it with a mallet and kind of work it and pray that it's even and doesn't get cocked. And then when you get it on far enough, you could start with the factory bolt to run it in. But the way this bolt is, since it's a little longer, you just leave the washer out, you put this bolt in, and then you can catch the threads immediately and start walking it in. Now, I just use that to get started, and then I use the factory bolt to seat it because I didn't want to put any kind of additional stress on this bolt or anything like that. So I figured, let me use this as the tool, the jacking bolt, to walk it on. And then when I'm going to put this together for final torque and everything like that, I'll put the ARP bolt on. And then the final thing you got to do is, you'll see here, they got a depth measurement for how far the balancer has to be seated on the crank snout. So you got a clearance of 0.094 to 0.176. So I just took the caliper, used a little depth gauge in the bottom here and checked it, and I had 146. So I'm pretty much like right in the middle of the range there. So that just ensures that the balancer is properly seated and that you're not pulling torque on like a cock balancer that isn't even all the way on, because I guess that could happen. You could still torque against that. So now pretty much you're ready to put the bolt in. I'm going to use the ARP assembly lube, hit it on the threads underside of the bolt head, and then I'm going to torque that to, I believe the spec on it from ARP's website is 235, 225, something like that. I'll double check it, and then we'll set the torque wrench up and crank that baby down. So here's where we're at with the car. It's the following day from when I started shooting this video. Just kind of ran out of gas that night. I stayed here at like 2 in the morning, trying to get as far as I could with the car. A lot of things were just fighting me, and I really didn't get to film a lot of it just because trying to kind of work by myself with it, and a little help from my buddy when he can free up a hand. And so I'll show you guys where we're at now. Alright, so you can see here we got the steering rack back in, water pump back on, the power steering pump assembly bolted back up to the head, alternator back on, the drive belt, all the hoses are reconnected, the wheels are on, and pretty much I think that kind of buttons it up top side. I just got to put the intake on, fill it with fluids. I'm just going to lift the car up and double check everything under there, that all the fittings are reconnected. I think I still have to tighten up the sway bar. I think I just put the bolts in loose last night. So we'll check in on all that. And we'll yeah, we'll keep going from there. So hopefully we'll be finished up with this pretty soon. I'm just going to finish off with some brake clean. That way everything evaporates and dries under there, and we're starting fresh, and then we can identify any further leaks we got with the project. Alright guys, so we got the car fired up, looked underneath for any obvious leaks. I don't see anything yet, so probably gonna have to drive the car a little bit to see if anything kind of comes back, but everything looks okay right now. I didn't have enough power steering fluid to fill the reservoir up, so I really don't want to run the car and run the risk of burning the pump up, so I'm gonna wait till I could fill that up. I was put about half in and it only came up a little bit, so I gotta get another bottle tomorrow. It's just too late to run to the auto parts store now. And then the last thing I gotta do is get the wideband linked to interface with HP tuners, so I can data trend the wideband and work on some of the tuning. And then I got to button up the air conditioning system. I got to evacuate the lines out, leak check it, and then recharge with new refrigerant. So that's kind of the next project. Pending everything went good with the oil seal, so hopefully that all works out. So if the seal leaks again, stay tuned. You'll probably find this box and all my tools listed on Craigslist, because I'm probably just gonna quit. But no, just kidding there. We're not gonna give up on this. If something else goes wrong with it, I'll stick with it and get it fixed, get this car running. So just a little bit of a minor setback. Well, that was a pretty big setback. I mean, I had to pull like half the car apart to get to the to do the oil seal. But hey, look, it's back together. It's 2 days later. It's not that big of a deal. A couple hours each night after work in the garage, and knocked it out. And hopefully this will be the last of the problems with this, and we'll move forward with the project and get her done. You never know, working on stuff like this, there's always something that's kind of bound to go wrong, but hopefully it all works out. I'm looking forward to driving the car and getting some seat time in it, so stay tuned for the next video, get it finished up, and start working on the tune. So thanks for watching, and have a good night.